Welcome to this episode of Florida Sportsman Best Boat. I'm your host, Dave East, and this is Captain Rick Riles, my co-host. You know, once you've chosen your best boat, now you got to figure out how to power it. Today what we're going to do is we're going to look at 4 brands of outboards. We have Yamaha, we have Evinrude, we have Suzuki, and we have Tohatsu. So choosing the boat is part of the decision. You got to figure out what you're going to put on the back.
Dave, an outboard is an outboard, okay? But that's like saying a boat's a boat. Outboards have maybe progressed further than boats have. Now we've got all kinds of gorgeous fiberglass boats. The motors are blowing me away.
What I'm seeing in outboard technology right now that stands out in my mind is their power to weight ratio has really come down to where, you know, the outboards, especially when they made the move into 4-stroke, they were big and they were heavy. And so you were like, do I want a heavier motor? Now the 4-stroke technology has gotten to the point where there's some 4-strokes that are actually lighter than 2-strokes, but there's even still some 2-strokes being built. So not only do you have to decide on your horsepower, now you still have the decision of 2-stroke versus 4-stroke. What the outboard manufacturers have done, they've taken that question mark away. It used to be that if you had an IO, it was going to start, a big diesel inboard's going to start. Your outboard boat, man, you know, you're maybe going to have issues with it. Now what they've done, they've matched that same technology as any inboard boat, to where when you go down to the boat, maintenance is easier, you turn the key, yes, it's going to start. Just the overall technology of what they've done with outboards is so far surpassed what it was years ago. To help us with this decision-making process, what we've done is we've gotten the 4 major manufacturers to bring their techs. We've asked them some questions, and the techs will help people figure out what's the best motor for them.
Good morning. We are here with David Mealer from Yamaha. We're having a conversation like we're sitting drinking coffee. Almost total silence.
Yep.
You're telling me that's due to the new V8 350s?
Yep. 1,050 horsepower sitting right back there, and we can have a conversation like this because of the innovations that we built into the engine over the 9 years that we've been doing V8s. Back when we first introduced this engine, boats like this weren't even on the radar screen. And because of the power and the raw thrust and the fuel economy of the F350 V8, it helped make boats like this possible. It helped change the way large boats were made.
What's going on in the smaller engines in the 350? You guys in like 200 up, what's going on there?
Stepping on down, we've got the 300, the 4.2 liter 300, 250, 225. That's a very popular engine for us. It's digitally electronic controlled, just like the F350 is. And then we get into the 2.8 liter series, which is a new inline 4. That's a lightweight 4-cylinder engine that's for smaller boats. You can rig that either manual, you can rig that in digital electronic control, single, twin, doesn't make a difference. You can make a really nice boat out of that. You'll see that show up on like 26 footers with the twin 200s. Really nice setup.
Dave, I am so pleased to be introduced to the new V8 350s. I cannot get used to them being, the generator on the boat's louder than 1,050 horsepower. But I want to turn it over to my partner, Dave East. You've got just as many exciting things happening in small motors as you do big ones.
Dave, other than a couple of guys that I know that fish for bass on Okeechobee who wish they could run this big V8 on their boat, you know, no segment on Yamaha would be complete unless we talked about your smaller power plants.
Right.
Starting with bass boats.
Well, actually with bass boats, the smaller ones are going to be running probably our 2.8 liter inline 4. That's available in 175, 150. We've expanded the VMAX SHO line all the way from 150 horsepower to 250 horsepower. That goes all the way up to a 4.2 liter V6. So that's not much smaller than what you've got right here.
Right.
Those guys like to run fast and run hard, and we give them the engines to be able to do that.
Right. Okay, let's get up on the flats, and I mean way up on the flats. These little technical poling skiffs. A lot of guys are running tillers, small engines, 30, max to like 60.
Okay. 30 to 60, you're looking at everything from a 3-cylinder 30, and you've got a 4-cylinder all the way up to 60. You've got high thrust that you can use in there as well. One of the standouts in the technical poling skiffs is actually the 70. It is 70 horsepower, 257 pounds.
Wow, that's light.
Very light. You can put the tiller handle on that if you like to. And it allows you to have a lot of quick out of the hole so you can get in that shallow water and still get on top without damaging the bottom.
Well, that may be a perfect motor too for the guy that wants to move up a little bit and get into a regular flats boat. A little 16-foot flats boat with that 70 would scream.
Yep, it does. And it's a very popular engine in that category.
Okay, so if you have a little bit bigger flats boat, those guys are going to be running anywhere from a 90 up to maybe a 150. What have y'all got in that area?
90 to 150, probably the most popular engine is the new 115, the 115B as we call it. And it's a 1.8 liter engine, strong motor. We have a VMAX variant of that. We've got, of course, the 150, the 2.7 that's been around for years, and it's our best-selling motor ever.
Well, when you get into the larger flats boats and the smaller bay boats, let's say 20 to 22 foot bay and flats boat in about the same area, maybe down to about 18 feet. There's no way we're going to get away from talking about what I think is the sweetheart of your line, and the motor I've fallen in love with is your 200.
It's just shown up on so many different models, and it's an excellent power plant and 483 pounds, so it's very light.
And here again, I think it's got a lot of the punch that people are used to out of a two-stroke, at least the ones that I've run. So basically, if you're fishing 6 inches or out to 6,000 feet, you guys really have it covered.
Whether you are in a creek or 70 miles offshore, we've got it all.
Dave, thanks again.
Thank you.
As always, we appreciate it.
Good seeing you.
When we return, hosts Dave East and Rick Riles discuss the variety of outboards offered by Suzuki Marine. This segment brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Yamaha's next generation V6 4-strokes are changing the game.
Mid-range power was awesome.
Fuel, the burn, it's unbelievable.
Couldn't believe the speed and the fuel economy is pretty impressive.
I mean, I couldn't believe the power. It was like it was more like doing a quarter mile on a drag strip.
And them things are like, it's a whole nother game. So I made the switch.
Experience the difference for yourself during the Yamaha Discover V6 Offshore Demo Tour. See why we call it the game changer.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Best Boat. Join our hosts Dave East and Rick Riles as they check out outboard engines from Suzuki Marine.
I'm with Dean Corvus here with Suzuki Marine. We're going to talk a little bit about what engines you guys have for the inshore market and the freshwater market, because freshwater, obviously we're going to be talking about bass boats. Come into inshore, let's focus on the flats boat industry and maybe like the light bay boats. Let's talk about horsepower range. Let's get the freshwater bass boats out of the market first. I mean, y'all still have the SS.
Correct. Our SS model lineup, we have a 150 SS, a 115 SS, and a 250 SS. So we cover a wide spectrum of engines. That way the guy that's starting out, maybe on a smaller boat, he can afford it. Yet we go all the way up to the 250 SS for the Bass Pros.
And in the 250, it's a 20-inch shaft. So.
20-inch shaft,
okay.
Correct. And the 115 and 150, the nice thing about those, they'll come in 25-inch shaft too for the bay boat guys. And you get the matte black finish, which is pretty
really
edgy.
Kind of cool, yeah, it looks good. Now, let's say for your flats boat, your guys that are out there in the technical poling skiffs, they're all looking for the really small motors, but they want to stay with the 4-stroke technology. What do you have for the technical poling guys?
Well, some of those guys go all the way down to 25 horsepower.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our 25 horsepower is electronic fuel injection, and it's actually batteryless. So if you had maybe a tiller handle, you don't want to carry a battery, it still gives you electronic fuel injection with no battery.
So you can do a rope start and still have electronic fuel injection.
Correct. So that really gets the weight down.
Okay, so now as we move up in flats boats, now let's say we're looking at a 16 to 18 foot flats boat. That's probably like maybe your 115 to 150?
Yeah, in fact, some of those guys, even with a 15-foot boat, they'll go all the way down to a 40. We have a 40, a 50, a 60. Those are same engine family. Then the 70 and 90 is the same engine family. So you can step up gradually as you want to.
Now you get into the light bay boats, and when I say light bay boats, I'm talking about bay boats in the 18 to 20 foot range. And now you're going to get into your larger engines that have the lean burn. Tell me a little bit about the lean burn technology.
So with lean burn technology, it continually leans out the fuel air mixture. Gives you better fuel economy in your cruising range.
Well, if someone's in the market for a freshwater bass boat, or they're in the saltwater market, technical pole and skiff, flats boat, or maybe even a light bay boat, you guys definitely have a motor to fit the bill.
We have a motor of all spectrums, from 2.5 horsepower all the way up to 300 horsepower.
All right, we're going to spin around, go catch up with Rick, because I know he wants to talk to you about the offshore motors that you guys have. That's his territory. He spends a lot of time out there in blue water, so I know he wants to learn more about them.
Great, let's go find Rick.
You know, talking about your bigger motors, I think I found a way I want to equate that to. If you would go out of sight of land today in a big single diesel, which everybody would do, why would you not go on today's big single outboards? They're just so dependable and so economical to run. It's made fishing so much easier than it's ever been.
It's a lot more economical. They're all electronic fuel injection for Suzuki all the way down to 9.9 horsepower. That gives you less fuel you have to carry, less fuel you're going to burn, less expense out of your pocket.
Let's go through 100 ways of which I've broken down with the old outboards. One that comes to mind was your boat sat up a long time, you go to put it in gear, and your shift cable breaks, all right? You're telling me I'm never going to break another shift cable?
Not if you go with Suzuki drive-by-wire. What it has, this is a electronic control box.
Okay.
So there's wires, electronic wires go back to the engine, and there's electronic servo motors that do the shift and do the throttle in accordance to where you put this handle.
So there's no more cables?
No more cables in these motors.
Sweet.
And we have select rotation on our bigger motors, 150 to 300 horsepower. And select rotation is you can change the direction that your lower unit is spinning with a chip in the motor.
That is an absolutely cool feature to have. You really, in that case, you can get away with one prop with counter-rotating motors. All you gotta do is switch it over.
Correct.
I gotta tell you, I'm telling people all the time, there's never been a better time to get into fishing and boating. There's never been a better time to get into Suzuki.
I tell you what, the future's looking bright, and every year we have better products, more options for the customers. So I say, come on, the water's waiting, let's go fishing.
When we return, host Dave East and Rick Riles discuss the variety of outboards offered by Tohatsu. This segment brought to you by Suzuki Marine, the ultimate four-stroke outboard. Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Best Boat. Join our hosts Dave East and Rick Riles as they check out outboard engines from Tohatsu.
We're with Steve Van Dyke from Tohatsu, and Steve, people may not have heard of Tohatsu, or they've heard of it, but really don't know a whole lot about it. But you guys have been building outboard motors for a long time.
A long time. This year is 60-year anniversary of producing outboard motors.
Wow. Now, y'all primarily do a lot of the small motors, and that's really what I want to focus on. Later when you talk to Rick, you'll get into the bigger stuff. But in your smaller motor line, let's say for the freshwater guys that are out there, whether it's a John boat or even up into a bass boat, what motors do you make that really fit into the freshwater market?
The new four-stroke platform of the 4050 really accelerates in that category. We still do make a lightweight 40 and 50 two-stroke at that horsepower range as well, but the new 4050 four-stroke is the lightest in its category at a minimum weight of 209 pounds.
Wow, that's super light for a four-stroke, especially with that kind of horsepower.
It's actually lighter than the two-stroke direct injection motor.
Well, those same motors, they would actually work into the technical pull and skiff market too as well, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. There's a real demand from micro skiffs, small boat manufacturers, and shallow water market to package with our engines, the 40 and the 50.
Well, what I like about the engine that's on this boat in particular, it's a four-stroke, but it's got for me, it feels like it's got the acceleration and thrust of a two-stroke. And where that's important is if we're in really, really shallow water and we want to jump this boat up on plane quick, you need that quick acceleration to do that. You don't want that real long lag that a lot of four-strokes have to get the boat up and over. You want to be on plane immediately so you don't tear up the grass.
That is a good point, and it's because of the new improved gear ratio in the lower unit. We hear all the time, boat for boat, that it actually outperforms the two-stroke for performance and out of the hole.
Well, when you get out of the 50 horsepower class and you start moving up, what other motors do you make for a guy who has maybe a little bit bigger flats boat or maybe even a small bay boat? What motors do y'all have that fit into that class?
We now have a 60 horsepower four-stroke. We have a 75 and a 94 stroke that we've introduced 2 years ago, as well as two-stroke direct injection, lightweight, in the 75, 90, 115 range.
We'll talk a little about your warranty. You guys have a 5-year warranty?
We have a 5-year warranty against manufacturer defect. It is a very good, solid warranty because we value service to our consumers and to our dealers, and we're very select about who represents us out here.
All right, well, we want to talk a little bit more about your larger outboards really made for the offshore market. Let's run back to the dock. I'm going to trade out, let you wreck on the boat,
okay,
and then you can talk a little bit about the larger outboards that you guys offer.
Thank you, Dave.
Steve, I feel right at home running a skiff like this with a Tohatsu on it. I know that value-based buyers have been buying these motors from you guys for years. Now you're going into the big block 4-stroke motor.
Yes, this is our second year for the big block, big displacement 4-stroke engines, and it's been a real fun experience.
What sizes are you building?
We build currently in the 4-stroke 40, 50, 60, 75, 90, 115, 200, 225, and 250.
That's about as covered as you can get for big boats. Now, do you see a lot of twin applications? I mean, we're talking about 30, 33-foot center consoles and stuff. Are you seeing a lot of guys powering them with twin 250s?
We do. It's a small percentage of our business, but yes, we do see a few twin applications. But our market typically is traditional repower.
Well, the bottom line is I think there's a new player in the game. You know, it's been, you and I know it, it's been the big 3 or maybe the big 4 forever. This is a new venture for you guys. I think you're going to do great at it based on the performance of your smaller horsepower engines and how many great boats we see running them. I cannot wait to get my hands on one offshore.
I'm sure that we could put you in one.
Let's go.
When we return, host Dave East and Rick Riles discuss the variety of outboards offered by Evinrude. This segment brought to you by Oceanic Gear. Wear the gear, catch the fish.
Whether you are offshore trolling or running the flats, Oceanic Gear is setting a new standard in performance fishing apparel. Our clothing has unmatched comfort, all-day sun protection, uncompromising durability, all at a price you can afford. We bring a unique look and feel to the game with vivid, colorful design. Whatever the species, whatever your style, we've got you covered. Oceanic Gear. Wear the gear, catch the fish.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Best Boat. Join our hosts Dave East and Rick Riles as they check out outboard engines from Evinrude.
Okay, I'm with Jason Ekman from BRP. And Jason, let's talk about 4 different categories of boats and the different motors that Evinrude has that's specific to each category. Tell us some of the technology that really kind of separates the G2 from the other 4-stroke technology that's out there.
Sure, it all starts with the thermodynamics, and that's what's happening inside the cylinder during combustion. With the G2 platform, with the aid of computer modeling, we've been able to perfect the combustion inside the engine. And the result of perfect combustion is, fuel economy, power, and emissions. When you get that right, everything else sort of falls in line. So that's the core of the G2 technology is perfect, pure combustion.
What do you guys have in either the E-Tech or the G2 for the freshwater bass guys?
Well, we're just announced the Evinrude E-Tech G2 150 to 200 horsepower platform. And this really finds its sweet spot in the 18-foot bass boat market. A 150 or a 150 HO on an 18-foot bass boat, it makes a really nice package.
Let's talk about the technical pole and skiff boats. Now these are boats that are going to be powered from a little 25 up to about a 60, in
Sure.
that range.
Yeah, our E-Tech 25 and 30 is the perfect match for that really small, 15, 16-foot boat. All the benefits of E-Tech with low maintenance, good fuel economy, and low-end torque that you're not going to find with a 4-stroke in that category. As you move up in size, our 75-90 is great for that 18-foot poling skiff. And we recently introduced the 60 HO, which is built on our 3-cylinder platform, same platform that we use for the 75 and 90. The 60 HO is perfect for those boats rated for 60 horsepower in the transom. You're not going to get any more performance out of an engine than you will out of the 60 HO.
Well, when you get into the larger flats boats and the smaller bay boats, that's where your 150 and your 200 G2 I think would be right in the sweet spot.
Absolutely, and that's where fuel economy starts to become more important when you're starting to make longer runs, and having the the benefit of best-in-class fuel economy is something that not only is it going to give you more range, out on a tank of fuel, but it's also going to hurt less when you get to back to the marina and have to fill up that tank.
All right, so that's pretty much going to cover like the 150 to 200 in the bay boat range, but I know that's a single application. Now we get into the twins. Now that's when you need to talk to Rick about the offshore stuff, because that's the world he lives in.
Right.
And then you can get into the single versus twin application in the larger G2s.
That sounds good.
Jason, now that Dave's covered all the inshore stuff with you and bored everybody to tears, let's talk about the real world. Guys want to get out on big water. Now for us, offshore guys, fuel is a big deal. Okay, we can go so far on a tank of fuel. Give me a 26-foot hull with twin 200s. I'm gonna do better with two-stroke technology?
Absolutely. And in many cases, we see on average 15% better fuel economy. The fuel economy doesn't drop off like it does with a four-stroke. You can push the speed 10, 20 miles per hour faster, and you're still getting, very similar fuel economy. Whereas the four-stroke really start to drop off. As you push the accelerator, you pay the price in fuel.
All right, here's one of my brilliant theories. I think a lot of people get out of boating because they don't understand the product and they run into trouble that they don't understand. One of them is watching people going down the river porpoising, okay?
Absolutely. With iTrim, you turn it on and you don't have to think about trimming the engine anymore. We've even seen some of our professional fishermen, when they're pre-fishing a tournament, they'll go bounce spot to spot. They don't want to think about trimming, they just set it and forget it.
There may never be a better time to consider getting into offshore fishing with an Evinrude.
I agree, especially with features like power steering. It's standard on the 250 and 300 motors, and it really, once you've driven a boat with power steering, you don't want to go back.
No, you don't, and you don't realize how hard you work during the day steering a boat without it.
Yep.
You don't know why you feel better after fishing with power steering today, but you know that you're less tired and you do.
Rick, hopefully what we've done today is given somebody enough information to choose the best outboard to go with their best boat. If you want more information on the 4 outboard manufacturers that you've seen in today's show, or any of the boats that we've tested this season of Best Boat, go to our website, floridasportsman.com.
Or we'll see you next week on another episode of Florida Sportsman Best Boat.
When filming for Florida Sportsman Best Boat, the cast and crew docked and dined at Fort Pierce City Marina in Fort Pierce, Florida, featuring a full-service, state-of-the-art dock system within walking distance from excellent restaurants and historic downtown Fort Pierce. Each month, turn to Florida Sportsman for the best in boating and fishing coverage.